In order to draw a stem and leaf diagram, we're going to be given a question that has a specific amount of values. So for example, here we've got the assignment marks for 20 students, and we're asked to represent all of that information on a stem and leaf diagram. So we can see by this array of 20 values that those are not in order. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to arrange them in numerical order from lowest to highest. So if we do that, we end up with 17 being the lowest all the way up to 84 being the highest. And now that we've put them in order, the next thing we need to do is we need to look at how many digits we have in each number. So each of these are 2 digits. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first digit for each of those, and we place that down the line that we've drawn with the ruler. Okay, so we can say the first digit there is 1, all the way up to there, which that first digit is going to be 8. So we always need to put them numerically, so we then say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, and then on the other side of the line is where we're then going to put the second digit. So for all the ones that were in the tens, so wherever we had the 1, now our next digit there is 7. So we have 1 and 7. Then we look at our next number, and that is then 19. So we have 1, and then we put a little space in between, and then we draw the next one, which is 9. Now, the next number is 32. So there is no values there in the 20s. So we leave that line blank, and then we move to number 3. So then for the 30s, our first value there, 32. So we've got the 3, and then we write a 2. Okay, that needs to be directly in line with our first number. Then our next one in the 30s is 38. So in that line of 3, our next one is an 8, and we put that in line where we put the 9 above. Then we have 39, so now more space between, and we add a 9. Then we move into the 40s, so now by 4, first value is 44, so we add a 4 in line with our other numbers. And then we have 45. So in line with the 4, we then put a 5, and then 7, and then we move to our next line of 50. So we have 1, 3, 4, and now we have another 4 and another 4. So you then have to write 4 and 4. Doesn't matter if they're the same number. There was 3 of those numbers that were the same, so we have to include them. And then we had a 5. Then we moved down to the 60s, so we had 65, 6, and that was it. And then the 70s is 2, and 5, and 6. And then our last one was 84. So in our stem and leaf diagram, we always have to have ruler drawn lines, and we always need to place these in much as line as possible underneath each other, so it's nice and even and straight. And then the last thing you need to do is you need to write a key. So we say that the key is going to be whatever number we have here. So you can choose any of the lines. So for example, if I want to choose my first value, so I take this part here. So I say the key of 1 with a straight line, 7, represents 17. Okay, because that shows us the number 17. And then we always have to add a unit. And they didn't tell us what this is, but we do know that they're marks. So we say 17 marks. Because we don't know if it's percentage or number, whatever, but we do know that it is a mark. So that is then our unit. So if we look at a different example now, we've got lengths in meters of 20 different measurements from a physics experiment as recorded, and we need to represent it in a stem and leaf. But now the difference is before we had whole numbers. We were using 17, 39, etc. So it was easy to just plot the first number on the one side of my stem and leaf and the second number on the other side. But now I have decimal points. So what we need to do is when we have decimal points like this, okay, we are going to take the last digit that needs to be represented on the right-hand side of my stem and leaf diagram, and that then leaves 2 digits, which will then be going on our left-hand side. So just like before, the first thing we need to do is we need to put them in numerical order. So if I take all those decimal points and I place them in order, I go from 1.61 all the way up to 2.04. So now for my stem and leaf, as I said earlier, you're going to have 2 digits on this side and 1 digit on this side. So 2 digits, the first 2 digits from there is 16. So that means here I'm going to have 16. We don't put any decimal points in the stem and leaf. We only show that it's decimal points when we write the key. So now I'm going to go 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, because my last digits only go up to 20. So now I can do exactly what I did before, and I go along the lines and then I plot each number. So under 16, my first one was 161, which means I have 161. Then the next number, 165. So with a little bit of space between it, then I write a 5. Then the next one is going to be 8. Okay, and that's all my 6s. So then I move to the 17s. So 172. Then the next one is 173. And remember, I put them in line. Next one, 176. Then 77. And then 78. And just like earlier, there is now 3 of them. So I need to say 8, and another 8, and another 8. I need to plot it 3 times. Then I move down to the 18, so it's going to be 183, 185, 187, and then again I've got 2 9s, so I say 9 and 9. All nice underneath each other in lines with spaces, so you can see that they're separate numbers. Now when I get here, I've got 190. So on the stem and leaf, I always have to represent zeros if it is the last digit. So I've got 19, so I say 0 on this side. Then 5, and then 6, and then I move to the 20, so my last digit there is 1 and 4. And then the last thing I do is I write my key. So I say that the key is, I can choose any parts of the numbers. So maybe let's say I'm going to use the second row here. So I say this one. Okay, and you say key. So I say 17, the straight line, 2. And I say that that represents my decimal points of 1.73, and then I include the units. And I was told that these are lengths in meters, so I say M for meters as my final key. And that is then our stem and leaf diagrams.